to be present really means giving her a thumbs up when she's looking your way. Other parents and they're recording their child, but all they see is the back of the phone and not really their dad or mom looking at them. I'll record maybe a little bit, but let me record in her memory box where she's looking at me and I'm paying attention and I'm cheering her on and I'm giving her a thumbs up, or she knows that I'm paying attention. She knows that she's got my full undivided attention, whether it's at home, whether it's doing homework at sporting events, or just picking her up from school. It's, hey, I am here for you. This is all your time, because that's really what I wanted.
My name is Tim Anderson. Welcome to Father and Friend, where men learn to live for the good of their families.
Today, I am with Antonio. He is a Marine Corps veteran with 2 children, ages 8 and 12. He lives in San Diego, and he's going to share his story of raising a beautiful child with DGS, DiGeorge Syndrome. Today, we're going to talk about what it means to be present with your family. But before we get into the details of what that looks like for Antonio, first, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your own upbringing?
Yeah, so I was born in Evanston, Illinois, to a single mother. My mom didn't know she was pregnant when she came into the U.S. So this is where I was born.
Where's
Just
your
in
mother
Evanston.
from?
My mother's from Mexico.
Okay.
She's from Puebla, Mexico. So I was little, and I don't remember much of that childhood. I just know that there was a lot of discipline. And I understand her now, because being good and good cop and bad cop, it can be hard. She met my stepdad, and then with my stepdad, she had my sister. But by that point, she felt that she was still alone, so she dropped us off back in Mexico, back in Puebla, Mexico, with my grandparents, which eventually I spent most of my childhood there. Then my stepdad, my sister's dad, finally decided to keep us together, bring us together. So we came back to Illinois. This time we were 40 minutes from the city, but still around. For anyone that's familiar with the greater Chicago area, or in the Navy related, I was 20 minutes away from the Navy base Great Lakes. But by that point, I wasn't influenced in joining the military. Before joining the military, I was looking to be an accountant. In high school, I loved accounting. I enjoyed Excel. I loved the formulas. I just enjoyed the whole concept of balancing a checkbook. But I immediately realized that college was going to be expensive, and I wanted to go to the University of Illinois, Chicago, which was just even more expensive. But everything happens for a reason. And after I was wondering what I would do, the Marine Corps recruiter ended up calling me that weekend. And from that moment, there was no going back. It's, yes, I'll join the Marines. I'll be a Marine. And most of that became because my stepdad, I'll call him dad throughout this whole thing. My dad, he always expressed how much he wanted to be a Marine, but he couldn't because of his residency. And when I saw his eyes light up after that phone call, it was one of those moments that this is what I want to do. This is exactly
proud
what I
of
want
you.
to be. Yeah, yeah. And it's been I played sports throughout high school, and he wasn't really involved. Typical Hispanic dad that would work 18 hours a day, come home, eat, and then go to sleep. So he didn't have a lot of time for those extracurricular activities. And just because of that, my mom wasn't driving at the time, so it was going to those sporting events all by myself. So that also impacted how I am as a dad now, and I thank him for everything he's done for me, and also to my mom. Unfortunately, my mom and my stepdad are now separated, but I do have 2 half siblings, a sister and a brother, that have been looking up to me, and also a big driving force into why I keep going.
What would be, if you were to name one life event that shaped you most as a father, what would you say that is?
This one's gonna be the birth. The birth of my daughter was one that shaped me as a father and as a man.
Can you tell us that story?
Absolutely. I was 20 years old when she was born. I was about to turn 21. And just remember from the beginning, right after Christmas, it's hey, we need to go to the ER. Something's not right. So we end up at the ER, and mom and I are thinking, oh, it's just a checkup. We'll just get seen, and then we'll wait because my daughter was due in January, closer to the end of January. And we show up. We're waiting in the waiting room, and one of the nurse comes out and tells us, "Hey, your room is ready." And we look at each other wondering, well, "What do you mean? We're only here because we had this situation. We just wanted to get checked up." Like, no, no, you're going into labor. So 36 hours later, my daughter's born at close to 1 a.m. Everything seemed fine. The only hiccup there was her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck, which nothing out of the ordinary or nothing to be worried about. It happens a lot. So now we go back to our room. We have my daughter. My daughter's sleeping in her bassinet, and lights are off because mom's sleeping. And I see her. I see her starting to turn blue. I turn on the light, and when I show up, when the lights are on, I see her. She's back to her normal color. So I thought it was just a little bit of the lighting. The room was dark. And I was, oh, maybe I'm just seeing things. My mom was flying in from Chicago. During this time, I was in the DC area. So my mom's flying in with my sister and my brother to see the newest member of the family. I sleep over. My mom stays in the hospital with a baby. We come back that morning, and the baby's no longer in the bassinet. One of the nurses noticed the same thing, that she was turning blue, realized that those were cyanotic episodes where she would just lose oxygen. And by that point, my daughter's in the NICU. She's hooked up. She's got a little oxygen. She's got all the cables to monitor her heart and her oxygen levels. And there was during this time there was a lot of shame, a lot of guilt of things that happened before. And before coming to Jesus, I was going to the bottle and just drinking and asking God why this happened. Why her? Why her? But just seeing that moment and that birth, spending New Year's in separate rooms because she was in the NICU, and we could only have a certain amount of people visiting her, and my mom was there, so we just spent New Year's in the hospital. And in that moment really showed me what I was made of. Was I gonna crack under pressure, or was I gonna push through? I know it is not only one event, and then there's multiple events that happened during this whole journey, but
Can you tell me
from
a
that
little bit
moment,
about the shame and the guilt? What was that? What was that about?
man, how open can I be?
As open as you want to be.
A lot of that shame came because of the things that I was doing. Um, I was following culture. I was going along with culture and what I grew up with, which was, as long as you're a good dad, you can do whatever you want. You can talk to any girl you want. And as long as your wife doesn't find out, or even if she does find out, as long as you're a good dad, nothing else matters. So there was a little bit of that. And right before we went to the hospital, my daughter's mom saw some messages on my phone, and I was completely drunk out of my mind. And we go into labor, and in my mind, it's, man, I caused this. All this stress was and pain was because of the things that I had been doing. At one point, I started blaming myself for how my daughter was born.
So you feel you tried to take that responsibility on yourself because DGS is a genetic alteration, right, in her DNA, which you don't really have a whole lot to do with.
Yeah, but I didn't know any of this. We didn't know what DiGeorge was. The only reason we found out, or the doctors were so quick to finding out, was because her doctor, the one that was there during labor, saw her, saw some specific things in her face and in her hands. And when he did his residency in Pennsylvania, that's what he focused on, was on the George. So the moment They called it, she had an elfin look, looked like an elf kind of. And he asked to get the tests results, get her tested, get her DNA tested, and that's how we found out she had DiGeorge.
So you were struggling before she was born, but then she was born, and then you're starting to blame yourself for how she's born. And so talk to me about that journey. She's born. Now you're asking yourself these questions. Is your daughter's mom, is she asking those questions of herself also?
She's asking herself. She's having those same questions, same doubts about herself. And to add a little bit more, my second daughter, she's my stepdaughter, so she's from a previous relationship with her mom, and she also had some birth complications. She was allergic. She was epileptic. We didn't know this at the time, but now we know that she's on the autism spectrum, on the high functioning autism. So she's having her own doubts, and I'm having my own doubts. And this is when we start getting divided. I'm dealing with the guilt, but I'm covering that guilt with anger, lashing out at her, angry at the world, angry at anyone that would walk past me. Don't even look at me. And now that it's been a couple years, it's realizing that it was me pushing away because I was suppressing reality, and I was trying to hide not so much the truth, but really what I thought was the truth at the moment, which would ended up being a lie. But that guilt and shame would just come out in excessive drinking, having that liquid courage, and saying things that were so out of proportion and uncalled for in a time where we really needed to be there for my daughter, or for both girls at this point.
So tell me about what's happened since then that changed your trajectory of your fatherhood, because like what was the turning point for you when you saw that and you went through that struggle? What was the point where you realized I'm on the wrong trajectory here?
Yeah, it was. During this time, I had moved away from God. As much as I questioned Him and why He allowed this to happen, I moved away, and my relationship with Him was little to non-existent. I knew of Him, but I didn't know Him. And one of my friends in the military one one day asked me if I wanted to join him for church. And I told him, yeah, what do I have to lose? And we kept going back to church. This was in Life Point Church in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I felt the presence. Little by little, I started getting a lot of conviction in what I was doing. But the turning point was when I heard John 9:1, verses 1 through 3 and 4. When they asked, when the disciples asked Jesus, who sinned, his parents or this man? And Jesus replies, it wasn't that their parents or he sinned. It is so that the works of God may be displayed through him. That blew my mind. It was exactly what I was looking for. Those answers of why is this happening? When I heard that verse and I went back to read it, reread it, it really opened my eyes. There's no way that what I had done, no matter how bad it was, that dictated how my daughter was going to be born. It was so that the works of God may be displayed through him, and we see it more and more. But once I really removed the lie, and the guilt and shame took a little bit longer, but once I removed that lie that my daughter's here because God wants her to be here, because there's a story to be told through her, completely changed the way I was approaching fatherhood.
That is such a great verse. I know from both personal experience and from people I know, we've had a stillbirth in our family, and I can understand the questions that swirl around one's mind when something like that happens to someone close to us, our children especially. And we ask ourselves all the hypotheticals of what we should have and could have and would have done. And was it this? Was it that? Did I, for my wife, did I exercise too hard? Did I eat something wrong? It's like all those things you ask yourself the questions of why. And There's something about when we ask that question, we're actually asking, I think, a bigger question, which has a lot more to do with who's in control. We have sort of the questions on why are somewhat delusional because it assumes that we could have and would have done something different than what we did, that we could go back and change it, and we can't. It's just there's nothing we can go back and change. We have to only go forward. And so I imagine there's plenty of men out there who, if they've gone through something like that, they've asked themselves a lot of those questions to go, what was it? Was it my fault? And so that's a beautiful verse to bring up. I think that
And it's so easy to find or try to find blame, whether it's blaming myself or blaming the other party, blaming mom. Like, well, what did you do? What did you do in your past? And that just not the way that it should have gone.
can you tell us a little bit about DGS? Can you tell us like maybe a little history story and what is it and those kinds
Yes,
of things?
yeah. So DiGeorge syndrome is a genetic condition, and it doesn't. Majority of the cases, it does get passed from family member to family member, but in a situation like ours, it happened to be a de novo case where she was just the lucky one to get the George. Mom and I both got tested for any genetic disorders, and we were all clear. So her case was very, very new, and when we were learning about it, there's multiple things that come with it. But I'll just say what she has because that is what I'm familiar with. She's got developmental delays, sleep apnea, central and obstructive, a little bit of a heart problem, nothing that requires intervention yet. She's got low and high muscle atrophies. She's got voice or speech impediments. Her airways kind of blocked. She's got her ears. She's mild hearing loss on her right side. And but as far as the George, it's kind of the symptoms that really show up. The big ones are bone marrow transfers are a big one, and we were kind of mentally preparing to having to do that early when she was born.
Is
Is
that
that
because
one?
their bones don't develop fully, or what's that?
Yeah, yeah, because some of them are strong and then healthy, and then some of them are not so strong. And then heart problems, a lot of heart problems for what I've seen. Some of the families that I've interacted with similar situations, their child's been in open heart surgeries 2 to 3 times by now.
What does that look like on a daily basis for you guys to take care of her?
I will say that I've been very blessed. We are what I like to think on the mild side of it. But for her, it's really taking her to therapies. It's taking her to physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and now we got into swim therapy to kind of help build some of those muscles. But that's throughout the week. That's 4 therapies. While she still has to go to school, she's in general education, so she's with the rest of her class. There are the days when, and it does hurt that she's struggling to understand something that every other classmate has already grasped, but she doesn't give up. So in the mornings, we were lucky enough to have a nurse that helps us out just to watch her overnight with her sleep apnea, monitoring her heart rate, her pulse ox, and her oxygen levels. It's brushing her teeth, making sure that she does. She's very trip vulnerable. She'll trip over anything. She'll just randomly fall, and that's because her muscles are not strong enough to do certain things. But to again to your question, just on Monday through Friday, we're having her at school, pick her up, do some homework, and just sit there with her. But we can't leave because then she'll get overwhelmed if she doesn't understand something. So it takes a lot of patience. And the night routine is another struggle where uh, I remember being an 8-year-old where I would just get told, "Hey, go do this," and I would go do it. But with her, we really have to be there with her. Diapers, she still wears diapers just because her bowel movement and her stomach are a little bit weaker. And yeah, it's mostly just spending the time with her and monitoring her 24/7.
So that requires a lot of patience, and I imagine you've got to slow down. in order to take care of her well.
Yeah, I have, and then now that I'm drawing closer and closer to God, I'm realizing a lot of these things come up in pride and greed and just trying to force her to do things where I would want her. This is where I expect you to be. And it takes a lot of humility to realize that it's putting myself in the seat of the judge when that's not my spot. My spot is not to be her judge, but my spot is to guide her.
I was going to ask you about how that's grown you in humility, and you mentioned it first.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I would say unfortunately, it took maybe 6 months to realize how hard I was pushing her. And I have a little story. I put
Were
her in
you
soccer.
were you like pulling out Marine Dad for the first 6 months?
No, well, maybe I did put her. I put her in soccer, and she'll play. She'll run around. I'll say that she'll run around, and I just remember when I was coaching her that I would get so angry and just maybe frustrated that she'll let the kids go by. She'll run next to them, but she wouldn't go in for the tackle. She wouldn't try to get the ball. She wouldn't fight. She wasn't aggressive enough to what I wanted. One day I was just yelling and then screaming at her. She's just having the time of her life. She's jumping, having fun. She is out there. She knows she's different and she's still able to step out there. And I took a step back and I remembered watching the movie The Shack. I don't know if you've watched it, but that movie, when I remembered when they asked the dad, "You're putting yourself in the seat of the judge." That one, I put those two concepts together, and I was like, "Wow, I'm putting myself in the seat of the judge, deciding who she'll be." But I gotta look at the bigger picture. I'm not the judge. I should be celebrating her win, celebrating that she's stepping out of her comfort zone. Maybe she don't want to, but she's running out there. She is playing. She's happy. She's running around with her friends. She's making friends. She's able to run when I tell her to run. And maybe she might not be the strongest soccer player, but at least she's out there. That took so much pride and a hard pill to swallow because I had to do an internal look. Who am I expecting her to be? Am I letting her be the child back to John, the child where God can display his grace, or am I trying to control it?
Before we jumped on this call, you said that one of the things that is most important for dads to be doing is to be present. Now, you've described already some of the ways that you're present. You talked about, taking your child to therapy and picking them up from school and those kinds of things. But I want to hear, what does that mean in your family? What does it mean for you to be present with your family?
It For starters, it means putting the phone down. That's one that I've been working on, and I'm a whole lot better. I will say I'm a whole lot better at putting the phone down or keeping it away and just spending time. But
I'm
what it
working
really
on that too, by
means,
the way.
yeah, no, it's hard because we do everything on the phone. We have our email, we have everything, and then everything's an emergency. um, but yeah, to be present really means giving her a thumbs up when she's looking your way. And then now I know I still do this quite often when I'm around other parents and they're recording their child, but all they see is the back of the phone and not really their dad or mom looking at them. And then it's really, well, let me I'll record maybe a little bit, but let me record in her memory box where she's looking at me and I'm paying attention and I'm cheering her on and I'm giving her a thumbs up, or she knows that I am paying attention. She knows that she's got my full undivided attention, whether it's at home, whether it's doing homework at sporting events, or just picking her up from school. It's, hey, I'm here. I am here for you. This is all your time because that's really what I wanted. That's really what I wanted. My mom, not because she didn't want to, but because we really couldn't. She wasn't really present at those major events, and I want to be there. I want to show my daughter what it means to for me to tell her I love you. and then show it, and show it by showing up to her class open house, or her what they do at her school. They do Family Fridays, or Coyote, their little assemblies, and then showing up, and for her to look back and know that I am there. My phone is far away from me, but I'm there, giving her a thumbs up, or just signaling I love you.
Special. Can you give me a story of, or something that you do on a regular basis with your family, or a story where you remember really being present, or like having to choose to be present?
Yeah, yeah. This one might hit a couple different things. While in the military, I got injured, and I got medically separated out of the military, and it happened way too fast. My contract ended in 2027, but I was out by June of this year, 2025. So I was really struggling. I was struggling with how am I going to provide? And the first week that I was out, it happened to be soccer camp. The girls had a week-long soccer camp, and I was there. I looked around, and based on the situation, it was on a military base here in San Diego. Based on the parents that were enrolling their children in this camp, we were her mom and I, we were the only ones able or blessed with the opportunity to be there and stay there the whole time. I would look around, and no other parent, because they had to go work, or do other things, they weren't able to stay. So for me to be present, it was realizing that I can start looking for a job after this. The job market is not going to get any better if I spend this applying for jobs that will probably never call me back. But what is important is that if I have this awesome opportunity to not work, not worry about bills for a couple more weeks, let me enjoy it. Let me spend this time with my daughter. And it was amazing being able to sit down, just give her a thumbs up. And anytime she would look at me, she would do something. She would kick the ball, and she'd get super excited, and she'd look at me, and I'd be, good job. And then she knew that I was watching. She knew that I was watching. That is I guess the one moment that comes to mind when I'm thinking about being present, where I could see that not everyone gets this opportunity, and maybe not everyone's gonna get this opportunity to really be there for the kiddo. So let me enjoy this time where maybe I'm in a storm at sea, but let me enjoy this present moment. Um and it's really come to light a little bit more after reading Screw Tape Letters. And there's a letter, and I believe it was letter 17, where Screw Tape is telling Wormwood that he doesn't want us in the present. In the present is where we meet God. He wants us in the past, just overthinking about what we could have done better, what happened, and then what we've done in the past, and reminiscing on that past, or in the future. And for me, it was mostly on the future. That anxiety of, how am I going to provide? How am I going to pay bills? How am I going to be able to pay for her nursing? Am I going to be able to have medical care to continue her care? Am I going to mess everything up because I got out of the military? Even if it wasn't by choice, but it was drawing back, and realizing that I need to live right now, because those problems are going to be there, but it is not going to do anything if I just think about them. I need to start focusing on actionable items. One of them is being there for my kiddo. Again, I know I've said it a lot, but while in the military, I didn't get that opportunity as often. It was training, work, and I had to miss first day of schools, last day of schools, ceremonies, maybe some dances that she had at school. I wasn't able to be there for that, and it really, really sucked to not be a part of that. But let me just enjoy the time that I do have now.
What are you hoping, by being present, by putting your phone down, by showing up at her events, by being excited about the things she's doing and is excited about? What are you hoping that she learns from that, or what do you hope to teach your children through doing that?
And so what I hope is that they learn. I guess in a way is setting the example, because they're in school, and they're going to worry about the test in a couple weeks, but they're so worried about that test that they might not be studying right now. The thing that they can be doing right now, they're not doing it. The other thing I really want them to know is to know that they are loved, that both their mom and dad really love them enough to put that stuff down. That in that moment when it's them, that they are the priority. It's not it's not the phone, it's not the job, it's not the game, it's not anything else, but it is them. And I get it. It's extremely hard in this day and age when digital media has taken over.
Everything.
But yeah, even those 15 minutes, that's the world to them. That is a good reminder for them to know that they are loved. And once we were able to teach them that, they can go ahead and do the same. That they can whenever they're spending time with somebody, they're not distracted. That they're not paying attention to someone. That's something else. But when they said, "Hey, I'm going to spend time with my friend. I'm going to give my friend this whole attention," as they get older, it's like, all right, well, my dad did this. My mom did this. I know what this is like. Yeah, being present doesn't mean me just sitting there and being on my phone or being on the game, but it means actually listening to the other person. And we would expect the same thing for them to learn to know that tomorrow's not going to change. The only way tomorrow's going to change by what they do right now.
If there was another dad in the shoes of being stressed or maybe having a daughter with a disability and they were trying to figure out life, what would you tell them?
Um, I told my brother, you got this. Sometimes I just needed that little bit of encouragement, and it came from the people that we least expected it. Yeah, my during this time that I had my daughter, and I was going to appointment after appointment after appointment, I had the people that I called friends were not really present. We were drinking buddies. That's what we were. To a dad that's struggling, it is you got this, and you can't change the past, but you can worry about what you can do right now. Right now, whatever you're thinking, whatever lie is consuming you, bring it up, rebuke it as a lie, and know that you still have an opportunity through grace. You still have an opportunity to make things better. No matter how bad you messed up, there's still an opportunity through awesome, beautiful blood that we are all saved and call on to a bigger thing. That our purpose is to raise our families, teach our children, and to be a positive influence to the world.
Well, Antonio, thanks so much for all your time. I really appreciate you jumping on with me today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. This was awesome, I'm glad I got to share my God story through me and everything that I've done. And that was one of the main reasons why I started the blog. It wasn't to get a bunch of followers, but it was to connect with that one father that might be struggling and sharing his story, or maybe bottling up all his problems and everything that's going on. That no, you're not alone. You're not the only one. There's a community of us out here that are willing and more than able to help out.
Fellow fathers and friends, so glad you could join us for this episode. To stay connected, visit our website at fatherandfriend.com. Sign up for our monthly newsletter or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media sites. Be sure to like, follow, and share with fellow dads and families in your community. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, send us a message and let us know. Until our next episode, keep showing up, loving deeply, and making an impact for the good of your family. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Father and Friend.